Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing Should You Buy Chivalry 2. Now I know this video is coming out kind of late, so yeah, if you would like to subscribe or like the video, it really helps boost the engagement and also shows me that you like the videos that I create and that you want me to make more of them. So yeah, let's get right into it. So should you buy Civ 2? Now I have to be perfectly honest here, I never played Civ 1, so I'm not sure exactly what Mordhau borrowed from Civ 1. And then what Civ 2 borrowed from Mordhau, or if it just borrowed back from Civ 1. So I'm not entirely sure, so I'm not going to be making those comparisons. But I will say, yeah, my background, I played a decent amount of Mordhau. I got to Plat 3, I think, was my highest ranked in the 1v1 duels. And I think I played around 100 hours, I think. So I'm decent at Mordhau, at least, right? So I think I have a pretty good perspective coming into this. What a Mordhau player would want to... would they want to pick up Civ 2? Right off the bat, Civ 2 doesn't have all the features that it's going to have later on down the road. They actually have a pretty transparent roadmap that they have right now. If you just go to their site, if you just go to like the Civ 2 site, you'll see it. So, should you buy Civ 2? Well, I would say I did, and I'm having a lot of fun. But there are key differences between Civ 2 and Mordhau, and I'll get into those. So, essentially, you're going to be buying Civ 2 because you like the big battles, you like the 48 or 60 person servers. Now, if you're coming from Mordhau, you probably just groan because you're like, that's not going to work out well. But the Civ 2 servers are actually quite good. At least I'm playing on the NA ones, so haven't had crashes, I haven't had huge lag spikes. Normally playing on those 60 person servers in Mordhau is essentially impossible, but if you are, I have a pretty fast internet. It's wireless, I'm not running on Ethernet, but I'd say it's pretty fast. Normally I get less than 60 ping on games, right? Whereas Mordhau, playing in those large servers, I'm getting anywhere from 80 to 100 to 200 ping, which, anything, I'd say 200 is definitely unplayable. Anything lower than that, you can probably justify being able to play it decently, but it's definitely going to cut down on a lot of the things that you can do and the enjoyment that you're going to have. Whereas Civ 2, you're not going to be lagging as much, and the times that I have lagged, it's actually not as important as you think, because Civ 2 is a lot more about the big group fight and not about the 1v1s. So you can still just charge into the back of an enemy swinging your hammer, and you're still going to do a lot of damage. Is it going to be as fun lagging? No, but I've only had it happen to me once. So I'd say if you have decent internet, then you're probably going to be fine in Civ 2. So yeah, Civ 2 is definitely more about the team battles. If you're coming from Mordhau and you really like the ranked duels, the custom servers and the mods, you're not going to enjoy Civ right now. I'm not sure if Chivalry is going to add or implement in 1v1 duels, although I'm positive that they're implementing custom servers sometime soon. So I guess probably inadvertently there will be dual servers, but I wouldn't expect duels to be as fun as Mordhau, and the reason is you can't really manipulate your swings as well, right? You can speed up your swings, you can drag them, but it's not going to be as intense as Mordhau. You definitely have a limit on how fast it goes. I guess maybe I would say the turn cap. You have definitely a larger limit on the turn cap. You're not able to direct your attacks like you are in Mordhau. It's not as free of a system. You have an alt slash, an alt stab, and an alt overhead, and then of course all of the normal ones, and those are just going to slightly change the direction. So, so you're not going to have that feature of play, which is kind of unfortunate. I did really enjoy that from Mordhau. That's not a feature that's being implemented. And then of course, if you're coming from Mordhau expecting a big timing based game, it is timing based to a certain extent, probably more than most games that people play. But it's not as time based as Mordhau, and the reason is because you can just hold your block in Civ 2. It'll drain your stamina for sure. And if the other person isn't holding their block and they block on command, they actually aren't going to suffer any stamina drain. So you have an incentive to not hold your block, but for newer players, you can just hold your block. So it's going to be a lot harder to distinguish the veterans from the newer players in Civ 2 because of the big group fights and because you're going to be able to hold your block. Now that said, there are some attacks that are different in Civ 2 than in Mordhau. For one, once you're entering the battle and you're at your phase 2 sprint, which is the fastest you can go, you're able to do things like tackle, and you have a special sprint attack, at least for all the classes I've played. And normally your sprint attack consists of some like sweeping attack, or if you have a pole arm, you're gonna kind of couch it almost like you're on a horse. And then a tackle basically just shoves players to the ground essentially if they're not up against a wall. So those are all fun mechanics. You don't use them too much. And then you also have your jab, which is, I don't understand why you wouldn't use it over a kick. I think it may be slightly faster than a kick, but has lower range. So that would be like your shield bash, and then you can also hit with your hilt. Now, when I just said couching, a thing to note is there are no horses in Civ 2, which you may see as a good thing or a bad thing. For me, horses were definitely way too good in Mortal, I would say. You know, if you're playing with like a bill hook or just a spear, you're essentially unstoppable. You could just one-hit any player you wanted to, and it took a lot of effort to try to kill that horse. And it's something always on the back of your mind. Whereas Civ 2, you don't really have that. And I'd say even if there were horses in Civ 2, I don't think that they would be that effective, especially in the larger servers. Another thing to note in Civ 2 is that if you're coming from Mortal, it's a class-based system. So there are 4 classes. You have your normal stuff like your knight, your archer, you have like a polearm user, and then you have a vanguard, which uses more like heavy weapons but doesn't rely on their secondary weapon as much. And then within those classes, you have a bunch of other classes. So there are 3 different subclasses within those main classes. For both Mason and Agatha, I believe they're the same. Actually, I know they're the same. And I haven't gone to all of them yet, I have to admit, but they don't always progress like you think. Like the polearm, it's not the polearm, it's the footman class. You start off with a polearm user, so you're expecting all of the other guys to be a heavy weapon user. But the next subclass you unlock is a men-at-arms, which has normally like a short sword, or a mace, or a warhammer, and then like a medium shield. And that's something else that I should mention. You're not going to be able to Jedi deflect arrows like you did in Mortal. You have to have a shield to block arrows. Shields do work on your back, and then they also work when you're holding them. If you're holding them out, they're going to block arrows. But yeah, you can't block arrows with swords or knives or daggers or maces or whatever, which may be a little disappointing, but whatever. So I think those are all of the major differences between Chivalry 2 and Mortal. I'd say if you're new to both games and you haven't even played Mortal or the original Civ, I'd say get Chivalry 2. It has a long roadmap ahead of it, and it's quite fun to play early on. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. See you guys later. Adios.